So I've been using the LG C2 for gaming on both the PS5 and the Xbox Series S. And I have loads of observations to share with you. And I wanted to spend some time with the LG C2 gaming with it and using it properly so I could summarise it all for you. And ultimately, I think LG could hold on to the crown of best gaming TV. This has taken what I love about the C1 and leveled it up. But before we begin, what TV do you think is going to be gaming TV of 2022? Stick it in the comments below. So the LG C2 is this year's main contender for gaming TV of the year. And that's primarily down to the fact that last year the LG C1 was definitely the gaming TV of the year. So what do we get with the LG C2? Well, obviously it's an OLED, so you do get those ridiculous blacks with that infinite contrast ratio. But the LG C2 is a lot more than that too. It's got support for FreeSync, G-Sync, it's got VRR built in, it's got 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, and the panel is a 120Hz panel. It also has a near instantaneous response time. But on top of that, it's got some fantastic software too. It handles motion fantastically well, even better than last year's C1. It's also got this game optimiser menu, which means if you are a gamer and you want to very quickly find out things like your FPS and all that stuff, you could do that at a moment's notice. Now, on top of all of those things, the LG C2 also gives you the most choice for a gaming TV. You've got the most choices of sizes, going all the way from a 42-inch all the way up to an 83-inch. Now, the 42-inch is actually going to be in the running for Gaming Monitor of the Year as well, because of the size of it and just how well it fits on a desk. But all of the strengths and capabilities of that 42-inch are also present and amplified on some of the bigger sizes. And ultimately, if you're looking for a TV that's fantastic for TV shows, for movies and films, and also a brilliant gaming TV, then you're going to be wanting something a little bit bigger than the 42-inch. Now, what do I have? Well, I have the 55-inch LG C2, and in my opinion, it's probably one of the perfect sizes for the room that I'm in. With this 55-inch, you get this new centre-mounted stand, and also all of the ports are on the side of the TV, the same as the 42-inch. Now, that is different on the 48-inch, because the 48-inch follows the same design pattern as last year's C1. Now, the real question is, why is gaming so good on this TV? Well, one of the reasons is the fact that this TV has support for VRR, FreeSync and G-Sync. Those are both by AMD and Nvidia. Essentially, those are there to avoid things like screen tearing, where the frame rate of the console or the gaming PC might not link up with the frame rate of the monitor. Now, depending on your console or your PC, they might not be getting out the best possible frame rates the entire time, which is where these technologies come in. They're designed to match the frame rate of your TV to the frame rate that the console is putting out, and this eliminates judders and screen tearing and just makes the entire experience a much better one. Now, the second reason why the LG C2 is one of the best gaming TVs out there is the fact that it has 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. Now, for a lot of people, and potentially most people, that wouldn't be an issue, but for the serious gamers out there that have more than one device capable of using up a HDMI 2.1 port, this actually does become an issue. The reason is that a lot of TVs that have 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, they use one of those HDMI 2.1 ports to run an eARC port, which means if you want to have a soundbar attached to your TV through the enhanced audio return channel, well then you're losing out on a HDMI 2.1 port. So if you have more than one console, then you're going to be sort of screwed there. Now, the LG C2 isn't the first TV to have 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, and it's not going to be the only TV released this year that has those 4 ports. But the fact that it does have those ports is a massive, huge positive in its favour. Now, one of the other great things going in this TV's favour is the fact that it has this game optimiser menu. Now, not every TV has a version of this, and it's a shame because this menu is fantastic and is really useful. So whenever you load up a game on your console or your PC, the TV will automatically detect that it's a game and stick it into game mode. Then when you press the settings button, that's going to take you straight into this little pop-up game optimiser menu. Now this isn't the full menu that pops up, but it gives you a few highlights, which is really useful if you're mid-game and you don't want to be blocking off the entire screen for any reason. The first thing that you'll notice is it does display the active frame rate, which means if you're in a game that supports VRR, you can see that that's switched on by the button next to it, but also you can see exactly what frame rate the game is currently playing at. Now this is useful for a variety of reasons, but to highlight one of them, I bought a HDMI cable from Amazon the other day that said it was HDMI 2.1 compatible. It supported 4K at 120Hz, but when I plugged it into my console and ran it through the TV, the game wouldn't run that, it wouldn't support that, it only worked at 60Hz. Now there's a chance I wouldn't have noticed this for a little while, but I would have noticed eventually a lack of performance in the games I was playing, and that would have been a massive letdown, and I would have thought it was an issue with the TV. But luckily, because of this feature, I know that I've plugged in a HDMI cable that just isn't up to the job. Also in this game optimizer menu you have some quick access to some gaming presets for different gaming modes. We've got a standard mode, but also an FPS mode, an RPG mode, a real-time strategy mode, and new to the C2, a sports mode. Now these will change some of the picture presets to make the TV optimized for that type of game. This does things like bright and dark areas in RPG mode so that you can see if someone's hiding there, for example. One of the things I did notice about this though that was a bit annoying is that in the sports mode it just makes it so bright and vivid that it's just completely unplayable, especially if you're playing a game with a lot of green like FIFA or some other sports game on a field. In that little mini menu we also have a quick access to dark room mode, so if you're playing the TV at night it's actually quite bright if you're in a dark room, so you can quickly turn that down to sort of be a little bit nicer on the eyes. Now from this mini menu you can go into a much more detailed game optimizer menu, and this gives you much more control over a lot more detailed things. This is where you can do things like reducing the blue light that's coming through the TV, or also do things like reducing input lag. Now ultimately, for those people who are wanting to fine-tune their gaming experience, this TV offering these features is just fantastic and actually is a massive advantage over most of the competition. So I've broken down some of the best gaming features of this TV, but this TV is also fantastic because it's not just limited to being a great gaming TV. Ultimately, the picture on this TV is utterly fantastic. They've managed to improve off of last year's C1, especially out of the box. If you're not the type of person who wants to spend a lot of money calibrating your TV, this TV is a much better picture quality for colour accuracy straight out of the box. And not only that, the TV is also handling motion in a much better and more sensitive way. Whereas before you had to choose between getting soap opera effect or getting judder, now there's a lot more balance. Now this isn't really going to affect gaming massively due to things like the VRR support and all of that, but it is definitely something worth considering. Now something you do have to consider if you're looking at buying this TV is things like reflections. Ultimately, an OLED has very minimal anti-reflective material on it, so if you're going to be using this in a bright room, as much as it still will perform very, very well, it's not going to be the brightest TV on the market. And because it's particularly bad for reflections, it means that if you're playing games where you're in a dark scene, you might be seeing things around your bright room that you might not want to be seeing on the TV. Now this isn't necessarily going to be an issue if you're using the TV in a slightly dimmer room. I mean, most normal rooms are going to be fine. What I would 100% avoid is having this anywhere near being opposite a light source or a window, because you're not going to be able to avoid seeing that in the TV. Now what is nice is that this TV is just very easy to use. You can change the settings to stop things popping up when you first turn on the TV, and the CEC control is fantastic. I've never once had any issues with it recognising devices, especially things like your consoles where you can just power straight on from your remote and you almost can lose the remote that comes in the box of the TV. Now, ultimately, I do believe that this is going to be a leading contender in the race for best gaming TV of 2022, primarily because it's just building on the shoulders of last year's C1. So guys, to see my full review of the 48-inch and 55-inch LG C2s, click these boxes here. Do subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Whoop!